treasured memories. Greetings, I'm Solidus-Skully, and welcome back to Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. And we see the blonde-haired chick continuing to toil away in her isolated little cell. And now the plot finally starts to get interesting as Sora begins remembering memories that he otherwise never had before. There is apparently another girl on the island. Yes, a girl who seemingly inserted herself into his life. To be perfectly honest, this kind of plays out like... Again, and I don't mean to be derogatory when I say this, but kind of like a fanfiction sort of character. Oh, there was another girl on the island who Sora mysteriously forgot, or was always there to begin with, kind of inserting herself into his memories. I don't know, part of me might be weird in saying this, but this could make for an interesting plot point, because as, Jiminy Jillikas is pointing out there, right there, this could potentially make for some interesting horror. And, I don't know, man. Again, as I kept on saying, all throughout the previous parts, if this story went in a different direction, or probably wasn't being overseen by, the lords and masters over at the Disney Corporation, this could have been very, very dark very, very quickly. But for the time being, it seems Sora can't remember her name, so we'll have to continue referring to her as the blonde-haired chick, even though I know all of this in advance because I am a very, very sad, lonely individual who has compartmentalized all his Kingdom Hearts knowledge into a single fact file. But regardless of such, this does kind of provoke an interesting reaction out of Sora because, well, and again, like with anybody really, if you remembered somebody who was very nostalgic to your childhood, and somebody that you found yourself very close with, yeah, you would be very protective of that, and considering how passionate Sora is as a person, being the happy-go-lucky ball of energy that he is, interesting things are on the horizon, so it seems. But enough about that, because now we have a bit of a twofer going on right here. Yes, we are not dealing with not one, but two worlds, because we gotta lengthen these parts, somehow. Excuse me. I had a little bit to drink today. Don't tell Dad. I don't even know what I'm saying, really. But, yeah, we were dealing with both, Agrabah and the, Wonderland. But yeah, this is dealing with the 1995 version of Aladdin, obviously. Nothing to do with the 2019 version, which I haven't seen. Don't really give a shit about, because the only reason anybody really gave a shit about that one was because of Will Smith doing Will Smith things. He was going for, Men in Black, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air sort of Will Smith, rather than, Pursuit of Happiness or 7 Pounds Will Smith, which isn't generally very charming. Whatever. Basically, we're going to be going through Aladdin's world and basically seeing adventures of Homer Simpson and the guy who was in Shredder, the horror movie about a ski mountain sort of thing. Fun times. Again, I don't really know why Robin Williams didn't reprise his role, since the dude was a fan of video games from what I remember, to the point where he even named his daughter Zelda. So it's kind of bizarre that he didn't, sign up for Kingdom Hearts. I guess maybe for the first or second game they couldn't afford him, I guess, but that's kind of weird considering that Kingdom Hearts was, and kind of still is, a bit of a big deal to a lot of people, so... Yeah, I don't know, maybe Square Enix was being kind of cheap in that aspect? Who knows, really? Now, I guess in terms of getting the routine, have I seen this movie out of the way? No, I haven't. To be honest, I haven't really had the interest. Kingdom Hearts is probably the closest that you'll ever really get to me seeing this, because... that being said, though, I do find the original, the Arabian Nights tales interesting in that regard, in the sense that, it does kind of cover some of the interesting origins, and again, it was mainly... I'm trying to remember, actually. I think it was Hellfire Com's commentary on Sonic and the Secret Rings that actually educated me to a lot of this, the different sorts of tales. The most interesting which of being Sinbad, in how the plot was very repetitive in the sense that Sinbad got bored and had an adventure, was pretty much the precipice for most of his adventures. But again, that has very little to do with Aladdin, so, yeah. Haven't seen the movie. I am vaguely familiar with the Arabian Nights tale that it was based on. A little bit darker, obviously, compared to the Disney version, but, that's kind of to be expected. And, in the end, Kingdom Hearts is about as close as you're gonna get to me, and it's a world that I only really enjoy for the fact that I kind of like the desert aesthetic, the fact that it does kind of give me vibes of, Assassin's Creed, in the sense of, like that Arabian sort of vibe. I'm not really sure when the Arabian Nights stories were set, but I mean, you know, with Assassin's Creed 1 specifically, you know, set during the Crusades, that's kind of the vibe it elicits for me, and, you know, it's, warm. Well, I mean, right now we are kind of going through bushfire season in, the land down under, so that's probably not necessarily something we should want, but never mind. But I mean, in terms of Kingdom Hearts aesthetics in general, like, I mean, Agrabah has usually been one of my favourite worlds, not just for the Arabian theme, but just generally for the fact that it adds a nice little spice and world variety, I've found. Like, you know, I mean, in terms of Kingdom Hearts 1, you know, you've usually gone through, like, jungle stages, Wonderland, and, you know, other sorts of Olympus Coliseum sort of fantastical settings, so here to see something a little bit more, well, something a little bit more, like, increased and, like, equally mundane is, like, the desert setting, which, I don't know. I enjoy in tandem for as tropey and video gamey as it can be, but, I don't know. Something about it just always kind of gelled with me, because I kind of felt that it was very, like, neutral-toned compared to some other Disney properties that we'll be seeing a little bit later on. I will point them out when we get to them, so stay tuned for that, dudes and dudettes. And in this case, I don't know. It's nice. And that, and I can't help but not hear Homer Simpson in the genie's voice, considering that he was voiced by Dan Castellaneta. I don't know. It's not that noticeable, but again, you can kind of see it when he, like, enunciates his lines. I don't know. It's, strange, but whatever. But in terms of Chain of Memory specifically, we're also going to be encountering some, different sorts of foes. Again, I've already commented on the black mushrooms, but we'll also be encountering the white mushrooms, coming up soon, I'm pretty sure. If not here, then in the next world. But again, they kind of work in a similar manner to how they did in Kingdom Hearts 1. Like, they will present to you different sorts of, like, poses and emotive, like, animations, and basically what you have to do is kind of, like, match them, which, again, I think I mentioned in the previous part as well, I wasn't very good at, because I don't know why, it just always came off as a bit confusing to me, considering the vast array of different elements that you have at your disposal, especially as you go on in the game, like when you get to things like, you know, Stop Magic, Gravura, all that sort of thing. Yeah, it's weird. But either way, especially with the large bodies here, you do get great usage out of your cards, like, you know, Dumbo being the "I'm gonna spray water on you" sort of thing. I don't know. Useful in certain situations, I guess, just not very much late game, as I've found in some recent playthroughs. But Cloud especially, you know, especially in a large group of enemies, he is honestly one of the more useful cards that you'll have in the game. I don't know whether that's just down to the fact that Cloud as a whole is a little bit more useful in Chain of Memories on the Game Boy Advance, or if it's just the fact that the character himself is appealing, I don't know. But again, you will get some pretty cool use out of Cross Slash and Omni Slash, which is much more useful here than it is in the 3D version, as I recently found out, because, well, let's just say I'm recording a little something special for the bonus video, because, yeah, in 3D it isn't quite as effective. But I mean, regardless as such, not really much to say about these sorts of worlds, which is kind of why I'm combining both this and Wonderland together, which might be a case of how I combine all the other Disney worlds, because again, as you'll probably see, or as you probably already have seen, you know, the level margins are getting longer, so, you know, you have to grind more enemies and do a little bit more to really upgrade in levels in terms of getting yourself prepared for the battles ahead, and again, like I said in part 1, this is one of the banes of Chain of Memories, is that for as much as I do love the game, you know, it is very grind heavy, and if you find yourself getting bored of the card system or frustrated by it, you are probably not going to have a very good time with this game. But again, as someone like me who does love the card system and does enjoy getting into battles and, you know, planning out my deck beforehand, it's fun, dude. But again, at the same time though, I can completely see why people, you know, didn't take to Chain of Memories' more, interesting gameplay style, to put it in kinder words. I mean, considering me as a person, I'm not really one for other sorts of battle systems in the Kingdom Hearts series. While they might have been a little bit more traditional, like in the case of Dream Drop Distance and Birth by Sleep, yeah, there were elements about those games which kind of left me feeling a bit less. More so Birth by Sleep than Dream Drop Distance, because you could still mainly go about the game in your own way, rather than, you know, just kowtowing to the Dream Eaters, which Birth by Sleep, by comparison, kinda heavily relied on the command meld and system, which I wasn't really a big fan of. But again, I'll save my thoughts if I ever cover the Kingdom Hearts series in full. Now we get into the battle with Jafar, and again, not really much of a difference between this and the battle in Kingdom Hearts 1. Target Iago, and you will basically be good to go. Again, Jafar in this case, in his nippleless genie form, is basically just more or less a... I don't know, more or less a stage hazard than anything else, and again, as you get to the original game, 3 platforms instead of... excuse me. 3 platforms instead of 6, so you won't really have to worry about, you know, jumping between platforms. Again, just make sure you jump high, kick Iago's ass, or Gilbert Gottfried, whatever's your poison, and you should be golden, dudes. Again, the only thing you really need to worry about is just breaking Jafar's card, because, I mean, otherwise, this battle is really nothing special to comment on. The only real drawback is that, given the fact that boss health bars are starting to get pretty meaty at this point, it does kind of take a while, and especially considering Iago's small size, it's really more of a waiting game, just to wait until the platforms are in the right position. You can jump up, hit him, slash him down, mate, feed, kill, repeat, it's all the same. Some inspirational quote that sounds epic and cool. I will say though, that, like, I mean, to kind of spoil things a little bit, his weird heel face turn in Kingdom Hearts 2 was kind of weird. I don't necessarily know if that was maybe part of, like, the direct-to-video sequels, or whatever that some Disney movies have, but... yeah, I don't know, it seems kind of strange, like that weird, like, Minicon face heel turn in Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. I don't know. I don't even know why I'm bringing that up. Well, I suppose there is one reason why I want to bring that up, with literally nothing else to talk about, is that Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, the video game, surprisingly good considering the movie that it's based off. Like, I mean, the plot's nothing really to speak of, considering, you know, what it is based on, but, like, the gameplay and levels are actually pretty fun. Like, I mean, again, I'm pretty sure PS3 games or Xbox 360 games have been discontinued at this point, but, you know, if you do just so happen to see them around, and you see, like, a copy there for $5, I recommend you pick it up. It's actually... it would make for a surprisingly fun afternoon. And again, this is coming from somebody who didn't like a lot of the Michael Bay Transformers movies beyond the first one, but again, the video game, for Revenge of the Fallen specifically, is fun. Oh damn, that didn't last the entire battle. But again, as I did say, this battle does take forever, so I guess now it is time to dive into the recess of dirty tangents like this. I'm not gonna say that word because that's a little bit disingenuous. I guess to talk more about minor trivia is also the level Dive to the Heart, which is, again, most Kingdom Hearts fans will probably already know what this is, but it's like the little stained glass sort of window panel, like designed with, like, you know, Sora and a bunch of other characters in mind. Yeah, something that you actually see at the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 1, actually. That was initially meant to be in Chain of Memories, but it was cut out for some reason. Not entirely sure why, because there is actually like a little panel from like a beta version of the game. I might show this if I can find the picture floating somewhere around the internet, but yeah, basically shows Sora and Goofy having a bit of a conversation there. I'm guessing maybe this might have been like a tutorial thing, like shortly after you finish up with Marluxia, and that's probably where the initial tutorial sequence took place, you know, like it does in almost every Kingdom Hearts game. I don't know, either way, it's interesting to see that it was cut out, because it actually does look quite nice, even for a beta version of what Chain of Memories was, so who knows, really. And again, if I do run out of other things to talk about, I guess we'll probably bring up some other cut content from Kingdom Hearts, especially one that I referred to earlier. And Aladdin really doesn't get a lot of use here because of the limited platform structure. I mean, that being said though, like, I mean, I will say that Aladdin as, like, a side companion is useful in terms of battles. It's just mainly for regular enemy battles and not with platforms that raise up and down, because I guess the coding probably wasn't very smart as to, you know, jump from platform to platform, or, like, jump up to hit Iago. I'm willing to peg that down more on, like, Game Boy limitations, but I suppose maybe it was in Chain of Memories. I can't exactly be certain. I've got to replay the game again. In fact, the only part of Chain of Memories that I played recently, well, was basically on the PS4, where I did a little something special, but you will find that out later. Not to mention, though, the gimmick card doesn't really help either, because it basically just sort of makes all the platforms level for a limited time, so nothing too special. Like, the gimmick card can be useful, but there are some times where it really doesn't do you any favors. This world and the next world we're going to be covering in this part especially, because yeah, I have certain things to say about the next Disney boss, let me tell you that much. Jesus Christ, this boss takes forever. And it's not really like we're really getting Jafar to do much, he just lifts up giant balls of fire and gets stopped. Which I suppose because, again, and I'm pretty sure I did bring this up in the last part, but for the sake of reiterating myself, I might as well bring it up here. I suppose the fact that you can use zero cards to neutralize, you know, enemy cards does, I guess to some people, make the gameplay a little bit more easier if you know how to abuse it, like in kind of like a Final Fantasy VIII kind of way. But at the same time, though, like, I mean, it's also the sort of thing where zero cards won't necessarily save you forever, because if the enemy is particularly fast about unleashing their cards, they can break the zero card and end up leaving you, well, staggering as a result. So again, like, I mean, while there are ways you can navigate around the game if you're particularly proficient at it, it's not something that you can break easily unless, of course, you've really experimented with it. And again, that's something that I guess kind of rewards players for really getting invested in the gameplay as is, but I mean, otherwise, yeah, you can kind of take it or leave it depending on how most people like it. But yes, Homer Simpson has failed in this mission, and soon he shall relinquish his genetic powers and become a Razor Jin, which, again, to delve into another Sonic and the Secret Rings tangent, yes, that was basically what the Arabian Nights was based on. Well, minus Shara, I guess, which I guess was maybe more of a Sonic Team thing. I don't know, really. Either way, that was basically the main crux of that game. In terms of Kingdom Hearts specifically, however, we're basically recapping the ending of that game, where the genie gets legs, but I think returns to his normal form in Kingdom Hearts 2? I'm not really sure what the plot is there. I might have to replay the game again, because it has been a while. It's weird. Then again, I don't really... Then again, this might get me a lot of, like, negative nerd credentials in, like, a lot of Kingdom Hearts circles, but I don't really pay attention to a lot of the Disney plots when Sora, Donald, and Goofy really go through them. I mainly just sort of skim over that and just wait and see what the organization or the original characters are doing, which I did bring up beforehand, and as something of a bit of a point of criticism, really, is that you could argue that while the Final Fantasy cameos aren't necessary to the series, neither are the Disney plots, but the Disney plots are why most general audiences play the game. That's kind of curious. I mean, I guess maybe to ask the question to you, the viewer, the nobodies, and I literally mean that since I don't think anybody's really watching these, would Kingdom Hearts survive if it was just its original plot? Would it thrive on purely the Square Enix content that it has, or would it simply vanish into the ether like, I don't know, The World Ends With You, or The Bouncer, or anything else? I'm kind of curious about that, because, like, I mean, Kingdom Hearts is kind of beloved by a lot of people, but, like, I mean, considering how entrenched it is in kind of both Final Fantasy and Disney camps, could it survive without it? I think it could, but I mean, it would probably be a lot more niche as a result. I guess that's more so the risk you run with having a unique concoction between two completely diametrically opposed, you know, properties just coming together and creating a game that you would not see anywhere else. I don't know. It's a weird dichotomy, but it's something that I feel more so applies to the later games in the series rather than, I guess, what was arguably from, like, the first game up until Kingdom Hearts 2, really. Because, I mean, future games in the series kind of really went ahead with the whole sort of, oh, I was an evil mastermind who planned this from the beginning, sort of storyline. And again, that's probably kind of playing my hands a little bit too early with Birth by Sleep, but I mean, I do kind of genuinely mean it in that aspect. Birth by Sleep is a game that I do want to talk about at some point. I don't know for a commentary because I don't like playing the game, but I might just have to talk about it. But regardless of such, that was Agrabah. Now it's on to more plot thinking, where Sora tries to remember the girl. But again, this is actually where we do get some genuinely touching backstory. It might not necessarily be, like, in this format, or at least not if you were playing the game for yourself, but I mean, like, especially in Rechain of Memories, as you have voice acting and cinematic cutscenes to go along with it, you know, Haley Joel Osment does kind of sell the idea of exactly who this mysterious girl was, you know? And again, she was always drawing, you know, making a reference to the DeviantArt self-insert that everybody would likely make fun of if they were of a more cynical mind. But not me, goddammit, I'm too fucking sappy to feel sad about that kind of thing. I guess mainly because of the whole starting artist, like, sort of facet about the whole thing. It makes me smile, and there are very few things in this earth that make me smile as such than artistic passions being unleashed, no matter how bizarre, strange, fucked up, and admittedly earnest and sincere they are. Like, I mean, for as much tee-hee fetish porn that you might get on that sort of site, you do also get some genuinely heartfelt stuff, which, you know, makes me smile. But again, like, I mean, I get the impression that a game, if it wasn't, like, if it was maybe on a more higher budget, or if maybe if this was given the title of Kingdom Hearts 2, they probably might have given, like, more greater attention to detail and, like, certain flashback sequences, kind of like what they had with Kingdom Hearts 1, when, you know, Sora and Riku were fighting, they found the door on the island, and they, you know, discussed the recent arrival of Kairi, who recently came to that island, if you'll remember back to that plot. But yeah, basically they kind of have the very stupefying reaction of, we need to forget to remember as we progress up the tower, but... And again, I don't entirely blame, like, the characters themselves, because, you know, Sora, Donald, and Goofy, while they are very earnest and, like, you know, very determined in what they do, I can kind of buy that they weren't the smartest bunch to really consider the, you know, the complications of, hey, the higher we go, the more we lose our memories, so let's kind of stop and... Or at the very least, if we don't stop, at least write down everything that we do in, you know, Jiminy's journal, since... Despite the fact that it was erased, if they still had their memories as such, they should probably write everything down so they can remember exactly, you know, what happened, who they are, where to go. I don't know, really. Like, I mean, I can only really buy it because it's with these couple of characters that are very... either very passionate or very simple-minded in terms of who they are as people. But again, I'd be questioning this a lot more if this was, you know, characters that had a little bit more going on upstairs, so to speak. And now we have more cutscenes of Axel and Luxine being evil and plotting. Basically talking about a certain little toy. And basically how Luxine wants to have her fun. And she will indeed, because she is a bit of a sadist, and... Well, let's just say, the safe word is, Sademaku. I can't quite remember what the book she wrote was in the manga. It was in the manga specifically, it was like a Sademaku, I think. It was like a sadomasochist book, which you could really only get away with in a manga because I think Japan has a little bit more tolerance for children's media, having like darker themes than us in the West, who are complete fucking pussies. Absolute motherfucking pussies. I don't know. But regardless of such, Axel denies her advances because his one true love is Roxas, even though I'm pretty sure he would probably be no stranger to letting Luxine dominate him in the bedroom. I don't even no idea what the fuck I'm saying anymore. But I mean, Axel does kind of strike me as the type to, well, for those of you who have seen the original Deadpool movie, Happy International Women's Day. But anyway, regardless of such, we have more scenes of them just being evil and plotting, Luxine teleporting away, and, Axel having goals of his own. Now, and I guess I could also bring this up in terms of plotting as well, in the sense that a lot of people, I think in terms of criticism, and legitimately so, mind you, might find Chain of Memories plot to be a little bit confusing in the sense that everybody's kind of betraying everybody, so you have no idea who exactly is the real bad guy you should be fronting about, and who exactly is just people being scummy over people. Because, I mean, nobody in this situation beyond our protagonist is really, you know, the right in this aspect. Like, I mean, again, we don't exactly know what Luxine and Marluxia are rebelling against. We have no idea what Axel's game is, and we won't find that out until Kingdom Hearts 2 and 358 over 2 days. And in terms of the other members of the organization that we'll meet in Reverse Rebirth, which is Riku's scenario, well, it kind of leaves... I guess it could kind of leave the audience feeling a little bit strangely dissatisfied as a result, because they don't really care about who's being terrible to who. But I mean, to me that's only really a problem in terms of presentation. I mean, everything else, in terms of exactly what Sora's going through, exactly how this affects Donald and Goofy, and you know, basically the revelations behind the blonde chick who's busy spending her days drawing inside an isolated cell. Again, it's a little bit sloppy in terms of how the organization was handled in this game, but overall, again, it's more so something that I think is better on hindsight viewing than it is when you're going through it for a first time. Because I will admit, it did take me a little while to really get to grips with Chain of Memories plot, but by the time I really did, well, again, I really came to love this game's story. Again, Marluxia and Luxine looking to betray the organization, to me, is interesting, mainly due to later revelations, and again, while I don't exactly condone the usage of Unchained X as a means of, you know, expositing certain plot elements that should have been revealed in Kingdom Hearts 2, if not this game itself. You know, it is interesting to see why they were planning a coup against the rest of the organization for their own purposes, and again, well, something that is actually more of a criticism for Kingdom Hearts 3 was Xehanort's plan as a whole, and I guess also including Birth by Sleep, is mainly down to his choice of organization members who quite clearly weren't very trustworthy to begin with. I think Loxine, in that scene alone, being a textbook example of that. But I mean, I don't know, Axel, as you will see as the story goes on, is an agent of his own free will, so while he is very psychotic in this game, he does also have understandable reasons for doing what he does. They kind of play it up a little bit more sympathetic in later games, but at the same time his weirdly, like, you know, shady sadism in and of itself is also kind of portrayed well here, because, you know, he's on guard, he's trying to not let people in on his real motives, and considering the fact that, you know, this is before he kind of teamed up with Sora, as he would do in Dream Drop Distance, it does kind of provide an interesting dynamic where he, in and of himself, has, like, compassion and relatability to a certain extent. Again, that's also kind of going into stuff in, you know, 358 over 2 days with, you know, Sykes and everything, so I'll stay my tongue on that. And, wait until we cover 358 over 2 days, because that is something I also have a lot of thoughts about. Anyway, Wonderland. I actually haven't seen any of these movies. Neither the 1958 original or the Tim Burton version. Does American McGee's Alice count as Alice in Wonderland? I don't know. Like the puzzle in Silent Hill 1, like in the hospital where you have to, like, put those plates into the door. Whatever. Again, this is really kind of like a I'm going through this level so who cares kind of level. Because, I can appreciate Alice in Wonderland for having more esoteric elements that, I mean, I am usually a pretty big fan of in terms of, like, visual storytelling, but I can't really say that I care for the story as a whole, because Lewis Carroll was, well, quite the, nut, as many of his fans will probably know already, but I'll stay my tongue on that, because that gets into some rather awkward territory. Now, in terms... Again, these are the white mushrooms I was also bringing up earlier. Again, this level mainly just goes to show off certain areas of the game that, you know, I didn't see, certain enemies. Not really much to speak of here, because really, I mean, Wonderland, even in the original game, was just kind of a boring level. Although, one interesting fact that I did learn about, actually, in Kingdom Hearts 1, they discussed, like, one of the princesses of Heart was Alice. That was initially meant to be Ariel, but I believe the programmers... I don't necessarily for sure if it was programmers or Nomura himself, but apparently, like... I don't really know what it was, like, I guess they didn't really want Ariel to kind of be floating in space, or want to detail, like, a model of Ariel with legs, so they just kind of made Alice a princess instead, even though it kind of has a bit of contrast, like when you see, like, a full-body group shot, especially considering the fact that she's also contrasted with, you know, the very Square Enix-looking Kairi, as a result. Anyway, the previous card room that you saw over there with the card spinning around, that was a roulette room, which basically gives you access to a premium card, which is basically... grants the card special abilities, for, like, single usage. Again, when you reload the cards via, like, you know, the ethers or, like, anything else, it, won't have that premium anymore, so, use it wisely. Anyway, this is the, boss fight where you meet the Queen of... Was it the Queen of Hearts? I can't quite remember. Either way, she... Well, again, this is kind of delving into personal stories here, but, she kind of reminds me of my Year 7 teacher whenever she got pissed. Like, the same sort of, like, tempered veins, or, like, the sort of unkempt hair sort of thing, and, like, general sort of body structure. Again, that is very offensive, and I do apologize for that, but, like... it's just kind of funny to me, because, like, whenever I see her yelling at, like, Alice or Sora or whatever, I just kind of get nostalgic a little bit, because, yeah, primary school wasn't exactly a fun time for me, I'll say that much. But I mean, anyway, that was basically the fight where you didn't provide enough evidence. Fuck you, Sora. Cards, attack. I suppose that's also another thing, actually. Like, at the risk of spoiling another, like, organization member, people are probably questioning why the hell Luxord, an organization member that is known for using cards, isn't in this game. I can only guess that it was because they didn't exactly think of him back then, which, I mean, it's kind of understandable considering the fact that well, I think half of the organization members haven't been thought of at this point, because in this game you only get 6, I think. Like, I mean, you've already seen Marluxia, Loxine, Axel, and Excuse me. Well, one that you'll be seeing quite soon, but you do also have a couple of others, and, well, let's just say what happens to them is dealt with in Riku's scenario. The rest of them you do fight in Kingdom Hearts 2, as they've already lost a significant number of their members, and that's also including Roxas and Xion, which are dealt with in 358 over 2 days, / the prologue of Kingdom Hearts 2, so yeah, enough about that really. Anyway, we have the Trickmaster. Not exactly as egregious in this version of the battle, but in Reverse Rebirth, I can't fucking stand this. You will find out why when I cover 358 over 2 days, when I cover Reverse Rebirth with Riku, but god, I hate this boss. And again, the gimmick card doesn't exactly help either, because again, as you can see here, it basically just gives you a table to help reach the boss easier, because you can't swipe at its legs in terms of hitbox, so you have to attack the body itself, which is raised high up. But again, make good use of your cloud cards, and you should be groovy, dudes. I do apologize for that brief bit of silence, actually, that was editor lagging. Do apologize for that. The whipping boy has been thoroughly whipped. But again, I guess, in the odd attempt to add a little bit more commentary with this very angry-inducing boss fight, would actually be the cut world from Kingdom Hearts 1, because you might notice that a certain world, Deep Jungle, is actually missing from Chain of Memories. Again, I did kind of allude to this, I think actually in the Re-Chain of Memories video I did ages ago, but yeah, that was down to actually a clause in the Edgar Wright's Burrow estate, because since that was owned by, like, the dude's family, yeah, Walt Disney does own the rights to their version of the game, and I guess since they probably held the rights until 2002 at the very least, yeah, because of the fact that the rights were owned by, you know, the Edgar Rice Burroughs family estate, yeah, they couldn't use it for this game, but there is actually some concept art that you can, that I'll post right here actually, which does depict Sora in Deep Jungle in like a beta version of the game where he does, you know, attack a couple of the enemies and does have the massive waterfall as like one of the backdrops. And, well, yeah, it's interesting stuff. And now we see my Year 7 teacher lecturing Sora because... God, I feel fucking horrible for doing this. Oh, well, it's probably not like she's listening to this commentary anyway. Or if she does, I am in very deep shit and you may never hear from me again because I'll go back to school, get educated, and get beaten up and die. I don't know. But again, Alice sneakily thinks out her way out of the situation. Probably wouldn't have worked out that way if this was American McGee's Alice, but well, you know. I actually did see some pretty cool fan art actually of well, let's just say a very disturbing scene of like American McGee's Alice luring Sora into like a maze sort of area where she kind of like, I don't know if it was just the title of the artwork itself or just the speech bubble that she had, was like, "Come into my world, Sora," very ominously holding a knife. I don't know, man, it was fucking sick. I might, if I can find it, I'll show it to you, but if not, then go off and take a look, it's pretty sick, dudes. So anyway, Queen, who gives a fuck, just storms off, and basically we're just left to, in the general sort of, "Oh, do you really have to go? We had an adventure, we bonded so much, but we gotta go, Missy. I got adventures over the horizon to see, people to fight, and whatever else." But again, vague connection to memories where she says, "Try too hard to remember and your memory might lie to you." Honestly, one of the more better quotes in terms of Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. I just kind of wish that tied a little bit better into the plot, in terms of stuff that was a little bit more tangible. And again, while Chain of Memories does kind of make the effort with some of the Disney worlds, with others it just feels lackluster, to be perfectly honest. But again, regardless of such, these are all just facets of Sora's memories, so the fact that they're telling him might be like a means of Sora's subconscious telling him to smell the coffee, considering what is already going on to him with, you know, the whole mysterious blonde lady that is haunting his memories. But again, I'll save all that for next time. So on that note, I am Solidus-Skully, keep it new metal, and next time on Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, well, we're going to be travelling through one of my favourite worlds in the game. Catch you later, dudes and dudettes. I'll see you next time.